On April the 6th, 2010, the Producers Guild of America announced the addition of Transmedia Producer to the Code of Credits. A big deal that some in Hollywood called unprecedented, and that quite says something for a city in which everything is a big deal. But a big deal because it was the first time in the Guild's 60-year history that a new credit had been added to the list. And it was a telling comment on the acknowledgement of transmedia as a piece of thinking and theory. Now, it's been doing the rounds, transmedia storytelling, for 7 years now, ever since Henry Jenkins coined it in his 2006 book, Convergence Culture. And Jenkins defines it as storytelling across multiple forms of media, with each element making distinctive contributions to a fan's understanding of the story world. By using different media formats, transmedia creates entry points through which the consumer can be immersed. Different entry points into the story world is afforded by different media formats, something that's more non-linear. It's a good definition, it's a very good definition, but it's a theoretical definition. And I think it's only in the more recent couple of years that transmedia theory has started to actually find a practical stride. And the reason and I'll show you a couple of examples, the reason that those practical strides are starting to happen is because they're actually observing really what are the long-standing tenets of any well-told story. They're tenets around really toying with us and teasing us and tantalizing us and feeding the imagination. Put another way, we know that the idea of the monster is much more terrifying than the face of the monster. The face of the monster revealed is invariably actually a little bit of a come down. But the monster that lives in the dark, in our imagination, livid, growing fat on our fear, that's the truly haunting monster. That's the most terrifying monster of all. And it's why Steven Spielberg, when he made Jaws, did such an amazing job, because he only revealed the monster, the shark, at the very end of the movie, by which point you were all the way hooked on the plight of three guys on a boat that needed to be bigger. Now, the fact that Spielberg couldn't get the shark to work, that it was a big clunky motorized shark, and when he could eventually get it to work, it could only turn left and not right, which isn't particularly scary because all we have to do is swim clockwise. That's sort of Hollywood folklore. But no question, Spielberg was terrified of the shark, not because it looked terrifying, but because it looked ridiculous. And he feared that audiences would see through the illusion he was trying to create, the illusion of fear. And as he said himself, quite interestingly, it made me become more like Alfred Hitchcock, to tease, to make the less you see, the more you get thriller. And that's really partly the essence of what excellent transmedia into practice is all about. Two, firstly, very analog examples, one actually from a couple of years ago for the movie District 9, the movie about alien invasion in South Africa, which has really got an apartheid theme. And there was a series of bus shelter pop-up seats that smattered all around West Hollywood that were again referencing the movie a good 3 months before the movie came out on theatrical release, that again were playing into this notion of alien occupation and segregation and really the underlying apartheid theme within it. A couple of years down the line, 2011, the movie Limitless with De Niro and Bradley Cooper. And the first teasing of this took the form of a series of tube card panel adverts, not for the movie, but for the main plot device in the movie, something called a clear pill, a simple pill that you swallow that will give you a four-digit IQ. And there they are on the Bakerloo line in this instance, along and next to all these adverts for tablets of computer devices and tablets for vitamin tablets. With no real explicit reference to the movie at all, but there they are as potential ways of entering into the story universe on an oblique level. Much more ambitious and far-sweeping if you take Christopher Nolan and what he got involved in for the third installment of his Batman trilogy, The Dark Knight Rises, which was very ambitious, but ultimately Nolan felt that he could fan the flames of fanboy frenzy and online cyber chatter for an entire 12 months before the movie came out in theatres. It started shooting on May the 19th of 2011. And he was so mindful of what he was trying to do. The very first day of the shooting, there he is taking photos of some of his main cast, people like Tom Hardy, who played the main baddie, Bane, and he's uploading it the very next day, online, associated with the hashtag The Fire Rises, to get things going, to start to create a certain momentum and tap into these early influencer audiences. Inside of 2 months of the first shoot, he'd uploaded his first teaser trailer, a 1.5-minute trailer, where actually, and I did this, I counted it, there's less than 30 seconds of actual new footage, and it was poor footage. But the spin-off posts and the spin-off video content and the spin-off commentary on the likes of YouTube were ridiculous. You had fans doing 10-minute dissections on these kind of postmodern critiques of a trailer, where there was only 30 seconds in it anyway. So it's a whole 12-month runway into ultimately the release of the film. I think probably for me, last year, the launch of Prometheus was one of the best, if not the most exceptional example of transmedia storytelling so far. It took the form ostensibly more than anything else of 3 viral films. 3 viral films. The first was with Guy Pearce in character as Peter Wieland in a partnership they did with TED, where Peter Wieland did an address to TED in the future, to TED 2023, how his character, he announced with great ego and sweeping scale, was going to change the world. Then 2 months later, there was this lovely 2.5-minute corporate video from the Wieland Corporation advertising and announcing the existence of their 8th generation Android. A wonderful little store in itself, and a really kind of cool and creepy vibe. And then a couple of months after that, you had actress Naomi Rapace in character as Dr. Elizabeth Shaw, making this video appeal to Guy Pearce's character, Peter Wieland, saying, I need money to go into space to find God. These were fabulous entry points, oblique entry points into the world of the story. They were actually effectively set, a good 90 years before Prometheus was set. They were backstories to the backstory, Prometheus being a backstory prequel to the Alien franchise. And if there's any criticism at all of them, and there is some criticism, I'm afraid, is that they actually raised expectation too high. They were wonderful pieces of teasing. The actual movie itself was okay. It commercially did all right. But if anything, the expectation led to a little bit of a come down. But I don't think that's anything one can be afraid of. There's nothing wrong with trying to raise expectations as high as possible. Fundamentals are simply that great stories will always be great stories. And great storytellers will always be great storytellers, and they'll have the ability to pull our strings and to feed our imagination. And that will never change. But I think what is changing beyond question is the means we have to now tell our stories, to tell our stories in a digital age that makes things much more lively, and it's a much broader invitation. Now, the Mariana Trench in the Western Pacific is the deepest part of the world's oceans. It goes down to a depth of 7 miles. 7 miles vertically, straight down. And to this depth we've explored, but we don't actually know how deep the Mariana Trench goes or what's down there. And I think digital storytelling, or storytelling within our digital age, is a bit like the Mariana Trench. It's an unknown, a hidden depth, there to explore by which we can conceive of new stories and conceive and discover new monsters, some of whom, unlike Jaws, can actually turn right as well as left. And I think our opportunity, our invitation as brand builders, as effective communicators, as storytellers, our opportunity and invitation is to look to turn the water just a little bit bloody. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening.